Hey there. Tonight, we are going to open the heavy ancient pages of the most terrifying prophetic text in human history. We are going to look closely at the ancient Viking vision of the end of the world. It is a story not just of a final battle, but of a slow, heartbreaking collapse of nature and kinship that feels hauntingly familiar to our own time. The old verses tell us that the end does not begin with fire, but with a long, terrible winter that never sleeps. If you find peace in listening to the deep shadows of the ancient myths and the whispers of the old gods, please leave a like and subscribe to join us by the fire. Tell me where you are resting tonight in the comments, and let the quiet connection of shared stories bring you a deep and heavy peace. Now it is time to turn down the lights in your room. Let the heavy darkness of the space settle around you like a thick, warm fur cloak draped gently over your weary shoulders. Breathe in the cool, clean air of the room and feel it slowly fill the deep, empty spaces of your tired lungs. Breathe out all the tight tension and all the rushing anxiety you have carried throughout the long, busy day. Let your heavy jaw soften and drop slightly in the dark. Let your hands unclench from tight, rigid fists and rest easily and loosely by your sides. You are completely safe here in the dark. You are perfectly hidden from all the loud, demanding noises of the waking world. I want you to let your tired mind drift far back across the vast, deep ocean of time. We are traveling back thousands of years into the deep, silent mists of the ancient Scandinavian North. Imagine yourself sitting in a long wooden hall constructed from the trunks of massive pine trees that were felled in a primeval forest. The walls are thick and sturdy, designed to keep out the biting wind that howls across the fjords. The air inside the hall is warm and smells rich with the scent of burning birchwood and roasted meat and dried herbs. You are sitting on a bench covered in soft bear furs and wolf skins. The fire in the central hearth crackles softly, casting long dancing shadows that flicker against the carved wooden pillars. The smoke rises slowly toward the vent in the high roof, drifting like a lazy gray river. Outside the heavy timber walls, the snow is falling in the darkness. It covers the mountains and the valleys in a blanket of silence. It muffles the sound of the sea and the cry of the raven. Here, inside the hall, you are safe and warm, protected by the hospitality of the clan. An old storyteller sits by the fire, his face weathered by 100 winters, his eyes bright with the memory of ancient days. He leans forward and begins to speak in a voice that sounds like the wind moving through dry leaves. The story he tells begins with a tree. The ancient Norse cosmology centers entirely on Yggdrasil, the world tree. This is not just a plant found in a forest or a metaphor for growth. It is the massive biological framework of the universe itself. Imagine a tree so incredibly vast that its branches hold entire worlds suspended in the void like fragile ornaments. The trunk of the great ash tree rises up through the center of reality, connecting the deepest underworld to the highest heaven. Its bark is rough and ancient gray like the skin of a sleeping elephant and scarred by the passage of eons. The wood is not dead timber. It is pulsing with a slow, rhythmic beat that echoes the heartbeat of existence itself. If you were to press your ear against the trunk, you would hear the sap flowing like a mighty river, carrying life and magic to the furthest leaves. The leaves of Yggdrasil are evergreen. They never fade, and they never fall. They shimmer with a subtle green light that illuminates the space between the worlds. The dew that drips from these leaves is the source of all the water in the valleys of the earth. It falls as a sweet rain that nourishes the soil and gives life to the bees. The tree is anchored by 3 massive roots that plunge down into the deepest, darkest corners of existence. The first root stretches all the way down into Niflheim, the primordial world of ice and mist. Here the air is so cold that it burns the lungs like fire, and the silence is heavy enough to crush a man. The landscape is a frozen wasteland of jagged ice peaks and black glaciers that move with the slowness of geological time. Beneath this root lies the spring called Hvergelmir, where the primordial liquid of creation bubbles up from the dark. The water is black and thick, and smells of ancient stone and deep earth. It is the source of the 11 rivers that flow through the creation myths. But there is something else down here in the cold darkness. A massive serpentine shape is coiled tightly around the root of the tree. It is Nidhogg, the corpse tearer. This is a dragon of pure entropy, a monster designed to recycle the dead matter of the universe. The creature gnaws relentlessly at the root of the tree. It is a slow, grinding destruction. The sound of the dragon's teeth, scraping against the ancient wood, echoes through the deep earth, like the sound of a millstone grinding grain. It is the sound of time itself eating away at the foundations of the world. The dragon knows that it has all of eternity to finish its meal. It is patient, and it is hungry. The second root stretches deep into the land of the giants, which is called Jotunheim. Here, the landscape is harsh and unforgiving, consisting of jagged gray mountains that tear the clouds and deep dark forests where the trees grow twisted and strange. The wind howls through the valleys, carrying the scent of snow and old stone. Beneath this root lies the well of Mimir. The water in this well is heavy with destiny and thick with memory. This is the well of wisdom. It contains the accumulated knowledge of every being that has ever lived and every event that has ever happened. The giant Mimir guards this well. He is an ancient being who remembers the time before the gods were born. He drinks from the well every single day, using the Gjallarhorn as a cup. He knows the past, and he sees the future. Even the great god Odin, the Allfather, had to sacrifice his own eye just for a single drink from these waters. That is the price of wisdom in the ancient world. You have to give up a part of yourself to see the truth. Odin, wandering the world in his gray cloak and wide-brimmed hat, knows that the end is coming. He traded his physical sight for inner vision, and what he saw was the inevitable fall of everything he built. The well reflects the stars and the faces of those who look into it, showing them not who they are, but who they will become. The third root reaches up to Asgard, the home of the gods. Beneath this root is the Well of Urd. This is the most sacred place in the entire universe. Here live the Norns. These are 3 ancient women who are far more powerful than the gods themselves. Their names are Urd and Verdandi and Skuld. They represent the past and the present and the future. They are the weavers of fate. I want you to imagine them, sitting by the edge of the well, where the water is white and calm like liquid milk. They are spinning threads of wool and linen. Each thread represents a life. Some threads are short and frayed. Others are long and strong and golden. They weave these threads into a massive, intricate tapestry that covers the walls of reality. Every knot they tie determines the destiny of a king or a warrior or a simple farmer. Even the gods are bound by the threads of the Norns. There is no escaping the pattern they weave. They spend their days sprinkling white mud from the well onto the roots of the tree to heal the damage caused by the dragon. It is a constant battle between preservation and destruction. The Norns try to heal the world while the dragon tries to kill it. The white mud dries on the bark and forms a protective layer like a bandage on a wound. This delicate balance is the state of the universe. It is a constant tension between the forces of growth and the forces of decay. But the prophecy of the Voluspa tells us that the balance will eventually fail. The Voluspa is the prophecy of the seeress. It is a haunting poem, spoken by an undead prophetess, raised from her grave by Odin. She tells him of the ancient days, when the world was young, and she tells him of the days to come when the world will die. She describes a slow moral decay that will infect the world long before the fire comes. It starts in the hearts of men. Brothers will fight brothers and become the killers of their own kin. The sacred bonds of family and friendship will be broken. It will be an axe age and a sword age. Shields will be cloven. The wind will grow cold and the sun will lose its warmth. This is the shadow that hangs over the myth of Ragnarok. It is not just a war. It is a tragedy. It is the story of a world that forgets how to love and how to honor its promises. The seeress speaks in riddles, but the meaning is clear. The physical destruction of the world follows the spiritual destruction of its people. When we stop caring for one another, the walls of reality begin to crumble. Odin returns to his high hall of Valhalla with a heavy heart after hearing this prophecy. He gathers his chosen warriors, the Einherjar. These are the brave souls who died in battle and were carried to the hall by the Valkyries. They feast in the great hall, where the roof is made of golden shields and the rafters are made of spears. They fight each other in the courtyard every day to prepare for the final conflict. They cut each other down and are magically healed by the evening to feast again on the meat of the cosmic boar. It sounds like a warrior paradise, but it is actually a desperate preparation. Odin knows that he needs an army. He knows that the wolf is waiting. Fenrir the great wolf is currently bound by a magical chain called Gleipnir. The chain looks as light as a silk ribbon, but it is made of impossible things like the sound of a cat footfall and the roots of a mountain and the breath of a fish and the spittle of a bird. The gods had to trick Fenrir to bind him. The brave god Tyr had to sacrifice his right hand to the wolf's jaws to secure the knot. The wolf sits in the dark, howling with rage. Foam drips from his mouth and forms a river called Vons, which means expectation. He is waiting for the earth to shake enough to break his bonds. His eyes burn with a hate that has grown cold and hard over the centuries. In the ocean surrounding the world lies Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent. He is so massive that he circles the entire planet and bites his own tail. He holds the oceans in place with his bulk. He is the child of Loki, just like the wolf Fenrir. He sleeps in the cold, dark water, dreaming of the day he will rise. His breath is poison. It taints the water and the air. When he moves, he causes the tides to rise and the storms to rage. The water around him is black and still. The creatures of the deep avoid his sleeping form. Thor, the thunder god, hates the serpent. They have met before, and they will meet again. The destiny of the god and the monster is intertwined like the threads of the Norns. The ancient people living in their wooden houses by the fjords looked out at the dark, turbulent sea, and they felt the presence of the serpent. They knew that the calm surface of the water was a lie. Beneath the waves, a monster was growing, waiting for the signal to drown the land. The atmosphere in Asgard is tense. The gods are powerful, but they are not immortal. They can bleed and they can die. They eat the golden apples of Idun to stay young, but they can feel the age of the world pressing down on them. They build high walls and they forge strong weapons, but they know that fate is marching toward them. The prophecy is not a possibility. It is a certainty. The ancient Norse view of time was cyclical. Destruction was necessary for rebirth. The old world had to die so that a new one could be born. But that does not make the death any less terrifying. The gods are fighting to preserve their golden age for as long as possible. They are holding back the chaos with law and order and strength. But the chaos is patient. The dragon gnaws at the root. The wolf strains against the chain. The serpent stirs in the deep. And in the shadows, the trickster god Loki watches and waits. He is the agent of change. He is the catalyst that will bring the whole structure crashing down. He walks the halls of Asgard with a smile that does not reach his eyes. He knows the secrets of the gods, and he knows their weaknesses. I want you to feel the heavy weight of this ancient destiny. It is a story about the fragility of order. We build our lives and our societies, and we think they will last forever. But the Vikings knew better. They knew that winter always comes. They knew that even the strongest tree can fall. As you lie in your warm bed tonight, let the story of the world tree ground you. Imagine the deep roots holding the earth together. Imagine the Norns spinning the thread of your own sleep. You are part of the great tapestry. The darkness outside your window is not empty. It is filled with the old stories. The wind blowing through the trees is the breath of the world. You are safe here in the quiet. The battle is far away in the future. For now the tree still stands. The leaves are still green. The water still flows in the well. The dragon is deep in the earth, and his gnawing is just a distant vibration. Rest your mind in the shade of the ash tree. Let the slow rhythm of the Norns weaving lull you into a deep sleep. The thread is strong. The night is long. And you are perfectly safe. The heavy branches of the world tree sway gently in the cosmic wind, but a single dark shadow is about to fall across the golden halls of the gods. The prophecy of the end does not begin with the shaking of the earth, or the darkening of the sun, or the burning of the world. It begins with a tragic death in the heart of Asgard. It begins with the loss of the most beloved being in all of creation. Baldr the Beautiful is the son of Odin and Frigg. He is the god of light and joy and purity. He is so radiant that light literally shines from his skin, illuminating the dark corners of the hall. He is loved by absolutely everyone. The gods love him for his kindness, and the giants respect him for his fairness. Even the cold earth seems to warm when he walks upon it. Flowers bloom where his feet touch the grass, and the birds sing louder when he passes by. He is the embodiment of the golden summer that the Norse people cherished so dearly during their long, dark winters. But Baldr begins to have terrible dreams. He wakes up in the middle of the night, covered in cold sweat. He sees darkness consuming the world. He sees his own death. These dreams are not just nightmares. They are prophecies sent from the deepest wells of fate. In the ancient world, dreams were the language of destiny, speaking to the conscious mind. Frigg, his mother, is terrified. She is the queen of the gods, and she knows the power of destiny. She is a seeress herself, but even she cannot see a way to stop this. She decides to fight fate with everything she has. She sets out on a desperate journey across all the 9 realms. She travels to the high mountains and the deep valleys. She walks through the forests and the meadows. She speaks to every single living and non-living thing in the universe. She asks the fire not to burn Baldr. She asks the water not to drown him. She asks the iron and the bronze and the stones not to cut or bruise him. She asks the bears and the wolves and the snakes not to bite him. She asks the diseases and the poisons not to infect him. She speaks to the oak and the ash and the elm. She speaks to the granite and the limestone and the slate. Every single entity in creation swears a sacred oath to Frigg. They promise never to harm the beautiful god of light. The fire promises to cool its flames when he is near, and the iron promises to dull its edges so it cannot cut his skin. The world loves him too much to hurt him. Frigg returns to Asgard, triumphant. She believes she has outsmarted fate. She has made her son invincible. The gods are overjoyed. They decide to celebrate this great victory with a game. They take Baldr to the assembly field, and they stand him in the center. They pick up stones and throw them at him. The stones bounce off his skin like soft feathers. They shoot arrows at him, and the arrows swerve in midair to avoid hitting him. They strike him with swords and axes, and the metal refuses to cut his flesh. It becomes a great sport. The gods laugh and cheer as they hurl everything they can find at the shining god. It is a display of the power of the gods over the physical world. They have bent the laws of nature to protect their favorite son. Baldr stands in the middle, smiling and radiant, untouchable by pain or death. The sound of laughter rings through the halls of Asgard, and for a moment it seems that the darkness has been defeated. The atmosphere is one of invincible joy and relief. But there is one set of eyes watching the game that is not filled with joy. Loki, the trickster, stands in the shadows. He watches the stones bouncing off Baldr, and he feels a deep, cold jealousy. Loki is the blood brother of Odin, but he is also a being of chaos. He cannot stand the perfection of Baldr. He cannot stand the arrogance of the gods, who think they can cheat fate. He changes his shape into that of an old woman, and he goes to visit Frigg in her hall. He sits with the queen, and he asks her about her journey. He asks if she truly got an oath from every single thing in the world. Frigg is proud, and she lets her guard down. She tells the old woman that she got an oath from everything except for one small plant. She says that west of Valhalla there grows a little bush called the mistletoe. She says it seemed too young and too harmless to bother asking for an oath. It was just a weed growing on a tree, insignificant and weak. She did not think it could ever pose a threat to a god. Loki leaves the hall and drops his disguise. He rushes to the forest west of Valhalla. He searches through the ancient oak trees until he finds the mistletoe. It is a small parasitic plant growing on the branch of an oak tree. It has soft green leaves and white berries that look like pearls. It looks completely innocent. It has no thorns and no hard wood. It looks like it could not hurt a fly. But Loki knows that it is the only thing in the universe that is not bound by the oath. He cuts the mistletoe branch, and he sharpens the soft stem into a dart. He hardens it with magic until it is as sharp as a needle. He returns to the assembly field, where the gods are still playing their game. The laughter is loud and the mood is festive. Thor is throwing his heavy hammer, and even that bounces off Baldr harmlessly. Everyone is drunk on the joy of immortality. They are celebrating their victory over death itself. Loki looks for Hodr. Hodr is the twin brother of Baldr, but he is blind. He stands on the edge of the circle, listening to the fun but unable to participate. He feels isolated in the dark, while his brother bathes in the light. Loki approaches him and whispers in his ear. He asks why Hodr is not honoring his brother by throwing something. Hodr says he cannot see where Baldr is standing, and he has no weapon. Loki puts the mistletoe dart into Hodr's hand. He says he will guide Hodr's arm. He tells the blind god to throw the dart to show his love for his brother. Hodr smiles, grateful to be included in the celebration. He steps forward, gripping the small wooden dart. Loki stands behind him and aims his hand with deadly precision. Hodr throws the dart with all his strength. The small green stick flies through the air. It does not swerve. It does not bounce off. It pierces Baldr straight through the chest. The god of light falls to the ground without a sound. The laughter stops instantly. The silence that falls over Asgard is heavy and terrifying. The gods gather around the fallen body. They cannot believe what they are seeing. Baldr is dead. The light has gone out of the world. The sun seems a little dimmer and the wind a little colder. Frigg weeps over her son. Her grief is the grief of all mothers who lose a child. But she does not give up. She asks for a volunteer to ride to Helheim, the land of the dead, and ask the goddess Hel to release Baldr's soul. Hermod, the brave son of Odin, steps forward. He mounts Odin's 8-legged horse, Sleipnir, and he rides down into the dark. He rides for 9 nights through valleys so deep and dark that he can see nothing. He crosses the bridge over the river Joel, which is paved with glittering gold. He leaps the gate of Helheim and finds Baldr sitting in the high seat of the dead, pale and sad. The hall of the dead is cold and damp and filled with the shadows of those who died of sickness and old age. Hel, the goddess of death, is half beautiful woman and half rotting corpse. She sits on her throne and listens to Hermod's plea. She says that if Baldr is truly so beloved, then every single thing in the world must weep for him. If everything weeps, she will let him go. If one thing refuses, he must stay with her forever. Hermod rides back with the message. The gods send messengers all over the world. They ask the clouds and the stones and the trees and the animals to weep. And everything weeps. The stones weep, and we call it condensation. The trees weep, and we call it sap. The metals weep when they are heated. The whole world mourns for the lost light. But in a dark cave, the messengers find a giantess named Thok. It is Loki in disguise. The messengers ask her to weep for Baldr. She refuses. She says let Hel hold what she has. With that one refusal, the fate of Baldr is sealed. He is lost forever to the dark. The hope of resurrection is extinguished by the spite of the trickster. The gods discover Loki's treachery. Their sorrow turns to a cold, burning rage. They hunt him down. Loki tries to hide in a waterfall in the shape of a salmon, but Thor catches him by the tail. They drag him to a cave deep beneath the earth. They take his own sons and they turn one into a wolf who kills the other. They use the entrails of his son to bind Loki to 3 sharp rocks. The bonds turn to iron. Skadi, the giantess, places a venomous snake on a rock above Loki's head. The poison drips from the fangs of the snake straight onto Loki's face. It burns like acid. Loki's wife, Sigyn, chooses to stay with him. She holds a wooden bowl over his face to catch the poison. She stands there day and night, protecting him. But when the bowl fills up, she has to turn away to empty it. In that brief moment, the poison hits Loki's face. He screams in agony, and he thrashes against his bonds. His thrashing shakes the entire earth. The Vikings called this an earthquake. The sound of his screaming echoes through the deep places of the world. Loki lies in the dark, bound and tortured. His love for the gods has turned to a black hate. He waits in the dark, counting the drops of poison. He listens to the earth shaking above him. He knows that his time will come. The death of Baldr was the breaking point. The first thread of the tapestry has snapped. The moral order of the universe is broken. The gods have killed kin to punish kin. The world has lost its innocence. The warmth and the light are fading. The long shadow of the Fimbulwinter is stretching across the land. The wolf Fenrir smells the change in the air. The serpent Jormungandr tastes the fear in the water. The clock of the universe is ticking down. The prophecy is no longer a warning. It is a reality unfolding one tragedy at a time. The gods retreat to their halls, but the joy is gone. They sit by their fires and check their weapons. They know that the peace is over. The next sound they hear will not be laughter, but the blowing of the Gjallarhorn, signaling the end of all things. The trust that held the world together has been violated and can never be repaired. I want you to feel the heaviness of this moment. It is the moment when the sun goes behind a cloud and the air turns chill. It is the moment when a promise is broken. The ancient people understood this feeling. They lived in a harsh world where winter could kill them. They knew that light was precious and fragile. As you lie in your bed, grateful for the warmth of your blankets, think about the beautiful god Baldr. He represents the summer sun and the joy of life. His death represents the coming of winter and the inevitable sorrow of loss. But even in the dark, there is endurance. Sigyn stands by her husband in the cave, holding the bowl. It is a small act of mercy in a cruel world. It is a reminder that even in the face of the apocalypse, there is still love and loyalty. Let that thought comfort you. The night may be dark, but you are warm. You are safe. The story is not over. But for now, we can rest. We can close our eyes and let the world turn without us. Sleep now and dream of the light returning. The golden light of the summer sun has faded from the world along with the beautiful god Baldr. The heavy gates of Asgard are shut tight against the coming storm. But down in Midgard, the world of men, the changes are beginning to be felt in the bone and in the blood. The ancient prophecy spoke of a terrible winter that would precede the end of all things. They called it the Fimbulwinter, which means the mighty winter or the great winter. It does not arrive with a sudden crash of thunder or a dramatic explosion. It arrives with a soft and relentless silence. The snow begins to fall on the fields of the north, just as it has every year for thousands of years. The farmers look up at the gray sky, and they pull their cloaks tighter, expecting the snow to stop in a few days or weeks. But the snow does not stop. It falls day after night after day, until the houses are buried up to their thatched roofs. The wind howls around the corners of the wooden halls like a starving wolf scratching at the door. The rivers freeze over with a layer of ice so thick that even the strongest axes cannot break through to the water below. The waterfalls that once cascaded down the mountainsides are frozen into statues of blue and white ice. The world is slowly being locked away in a prison of cold. Usually, when winter comes, there is the promise of spring. The people endure the cold because they know that eventually the sun will return and the green shoots of barley and rye will push up through the soil. But this time, the spring does not come. The months drag on, and the sun remains a pale and sickly disk low on the southern horizon. It gives no heat. It offers no comfort. The snow continues to pile up until the forests are silent tombs of white. The birds fall dead from the trees, frozen mid-song. The deer and the elk wander through the deep drifts, searching for bark to eat, until they too collapse and are covered by the endless falling white. The summer should have come by now, but the air is still bitter and sharp. The breath of men and women turns to ice crystals the moment it leaves their mouths. The firewood stores are running low. People begin to burn their furniture and their tools just to keep the frost from creeping into their bones. The walls of the houses groan under the weight of the snow, and the darkness seems to press against the windows with a physical weight. The silence of the forest is unnatural. There is no rustling of leaves, because there are no leaves left. There is no running water because all the water has turned to stone. This is the first of 3 winters that will follow one another with no summer in between. It is a time of incredible physical suffering, but the prophecy tells us that the physical cold is only a reflection of the spiritual cold that settles over the human heart. As the food supplies dwindle and the hunger gnaws at the belly, the bonds of society begin to fray. The Voluspa describes this time as a sword age and an axe age. It says that shields will be cloven and that brothers will fight brothers for the scraps of what remains. In the deep cold, the warmth of kinship dies. A father looks at his son not with love but with suspicion, guarding his piece of dried meat. A neighbor looks at his neighbor not as a friend but as a rival for the last logs of wood. The laws that held the clans together dissolve into the snow. There is no king and no jarl to keep the peace, because everyone is fighting just to draw another breath. The strong take from the weak, and the weak perish in the dark. The ancient hospitality that defined the northern culture is forgotten. The doors are barred and the hearts are hardened. The trust that was the foundation of the community is shattered like brittle ice. I want you to imagine the silence of this world. There is no sound of smiths hammering metal. There is no sound of children playing in the meadows. There is no sound of cows lowing in the pastures. There is only the sound of the wind screaming across the frozen wasteland. The world has become a gray and white desert. The people huddle by their dying fires, telling stories of the time when the sun was warm and the gods walked among them. They wonder if the gods have abandoned them. They wonder if this is the punishment for the death of Baldr. They do not know that the gods are trapped in their own despair, watching from the high walls of Asgard as the world below them slowly dies. Odin sits on his high throne, Hlidskjalf, and he looks out across the 9 realms. He sees the suffering, and he sees the blood on the snow. He knows that this is the beginning of the end. He knows that the Sword Age is just the prelude to the Wolf Age. The ravens, Hugin and Munin, fly over the frozen world and bring back news of the collapse. They whisper in Odin's ear that the hearts of men have turned to ice. High above the frozen earth, a different kind of drama is playing out in the sky. Since the beginning of time, the sun and the moon have traveled across the heavens in their chariots. The sun is a goddess named Sol, and the moon is a god named Mani. They race across the sky every day and night, bringing light and time to the world. But they are not traveling alone. They are being hunted. 2 massive wolves have pursued them since the dawn of creation. The wolf that chases the sun is named Skoll, which means treachery. The wolf that chases the moon is named Hati, which means hate. For eons, the wolves were just far behind enough that the sun and moon could escape. They were dark shapes on the edge of vision, shadows flickering in the corner of the eye. But as the Fimbulwinter tightens its grip on the earth, the wolves begin to run faster. They feed on the darkness and the despair of the world below. They grow larger and stronger with every broken promise and every act of violence committed by men. The chaos gives them strength. The fear gives them speed. The people standing in the deep snow look up and they see the sun struggling. The goddess Sol whips her horses, trying to outrun the beast behind her. But the horses are tired. The light of the sun is fading as the wolf Skoll draws closer. His open jaws are vast enough to swallow the heavens. His eyes burn with an ancient hunger. He is the child of the iron wood, a forest of giantesses who breed monsters to destroy the gods. He gains on the chariot. The gap closes. The people watch in terror as the shadow of the wolf begins to eclipse the sun. It is not a natural eclipse. It is a violent, consuming. The wolf snaps his jaws, and a piece of the sun vanishes. The light turns a blood-red color, casting long, terrifying shadows across the snow. The air grows even colder. The wind stops blowing as if the world is holding its breath. The birds that had managed to survive the winter fall from the sky in terror. The dogs howl at the dying light. The wolf takes another bite, and the sun is reduced to a sliver. The warmth that sustained all life on Earth is being extinguished. At the same time, the wolf Hati closes in on the moon. The moon is the keeper of time. He marks the months and the years. When Hati catches him, time itself begins to unravel. The rhythmic cycle of the universe is broken. The wolf leaps, and his teeth sink into the silver light of the moon. The moon bleeds. The ancient texts say that the seat of the gods is sprayed with blood. The stars begin to flicker and go out, one by one, like candles in a drafty hall. The sky, which was once a dome of beautiful blue and black jewels, turns into a vast empty void. The darkness is absolute. It is a heavy, suffocating blanket that extinguishes all hope. The only light left comes from the dying fires of the human settlements and the cold, burning eyes of the monsters in the dark. The constellations that guided sailors are gone. The North Star is gone. The hunter is gone. The navigation of the world is lost. This is the moment when the 3-year winter ends. Not with a thaw, but with a total collapse. The sun is gone. The moon is gone. The stars are gone. The world of men is a frozen graveyard. The prophecy has been fulfilled. The bonds of kinship are broken. The earth is soaked in blood. The moral structure of the universe has shattered just as completely as the physical structure. The gods in Asgard stand on the walls and watch the lights go out. They grip their weapons tighter. They know that the darkness is not empty. It is a cover for the movements of their enemies. The giants in Jotunheim are stirring. The dark elves in Svartalfheim are forging weapons in their underground furnaces. The dead in Helheim are restless. The silence of the Fimbulwinter is about to be broken by the loudest sound the universe has ever heard. The barrier between the worlds is thinning. The magic that kept the giants at bay is fading with the light. I want you to feel the stillness of this dark world. It is the stillness of a held breath. It is the quiet before the storm. Imagine yourself standing in that deep snow wrapped in furs. The cold is biting at your face, but you are safe here in the story. You are just a witness to the end of an age. The darkness is peaceful in its own way. It hides the ruins of the world. It covers the scars of the land. The long winter has done its work. It has stripped away everything that was not essential. It has reduced the complex, busy world of men to a simple equation of survival. And now that the world is quiet, the real powers can begin to move. The ancient monsters that have been bound since the beginning of time feel the weakness in the fabric of reality. They feel the lock loosening. They feel the chain rusting. The Fimbulwinter was the key that unlocked the cage. The gods are waiting. The monsters are waiting. The earth itself is waiting. The darkness allows for a kind of rest that was not possible before. When the sun never rises, there is no demand to work. There is no demand to build. There is only the demand to exist. In the long night, the boundaries of the self begin to dissolve. The mind wanders in the dark. It remembers the old songs. It remembers the old loves. It lets go of the ambitions that seemed so important in the light. What does it matter if you are a king or a thrall when the snow covers everyone equally? The Fimbulwinter is the great equalizer. It brings everyone down to the same level. It forces everyone to face the truth of their own mortality. As you listen to the wind howling outside the hall, you can feel the heavy comfort of that truth. You do not have to be anything special. You just have to be here. You just have to breathe. The world is turning on its axis in the dark, and you are turning with it. The cold is a preservative. It stops the decay. It freezes the moment in time. The world is suspended in a block of ice. It is like a fly trapped in amber. It is beautiful and tragic and still. The frantic energy of the Sword Age has burned itself out. The warriors are tired. The kings are tired. The earth is tired. It wants to rest. It wants to sleep. The darkness is a blanket that the universe has pulled up over its head. It is hiding from the pain. It is hiding from the loss. Let yourself hide with it. Let yourself burrow down into the warmth of your own bed. The story is dark, but you are warm. The world outside is cold, but you are safe. The winter is long, but it is not eternal. Even the Fimbulwinter must end. Even the longest night must give way to something else. But for now, we are in the dark. We are in the quiet. We are in the space between the light and the fire. It is a space of deep reflection, a space of heavy dreams. Let the snow cover your thoughts. Let the ice freeze your worries. Let the wind carry away your stress. You are part of the story now. You are watching the end of the world from a safe distance. You are the observer in the dark, and in the silence of the snow you can finally find peace. The heavy silence of the long, dark winter is broken by a sound that comes from the very bones of the earth. It starts as a low vibration, a deep humming rumble that you can feel in your teeth and in the soles of your feet before you can hear it with your ears. It is the sound of the world waking up from its frozen sleep, but it is not waking up to life. It is waking up to destruction. The prophecy of the Voluspa tells us that the earth will shake so violently that the trees will be torn up by their roots and the mountains will crash down into the valleys. This is the moment when the physical structure of the planet begins to fail. The great world tree Yggdrasil, which holds the 9 realms together, begins to tremble. Its leaves shiver and rustle even though there is no wind. The great eagle that sits at the very top of the tree screams out a warning that echoes across the sky. The dragon Nidhogg at the roots stops his gnawing and looks up with hungry eyes. He knows that his work is almost done. The vibration travels up the trunk of the tree, shaking the stars loose from the branches. It travels down the roots, cracking the foundations of the underworld. I want you to imagine the sheer power of this seismic event. It is not just an earthquake in one land. It is a shudder that runs through the entire cosmos. The bedrock of the earth cracks open like dry clay. Giant fissures appear in the ground, swallowing the ruins of human cities. The stone cliffs that have stood for millions of years crumble into dust. The vibration is so intense that it shatters the magical bonds that have held the enemies of the gods in check for eons. The gods built prisons of stone and iron and magic, but no prison can withstand the earth itself tearing apart. The mountains that were the walls of the prisons fall down. The iron bars snap like twigs. The magic spells unravel like old wool. The chaos that has been contained for so long is finally released. The shaking goes on and on. It is a rhythmic pounding like a giant heart beating in the center of the world. It dislodges the ice sheets. It opens the volcanoes. It wakes the sleeping monsters. Deep in the dark cave where he has been bound for centuries, the great wolf Fenrir feels the stone slab to which he is anchored crack. He has grown since the day he was bound. He is now so massive that when he opens his mouth, his lower jaw touches the earth and his upper jaw touches the sky. He has been waiting in the dark, feeding on his own rage. The magical chain Gleipnir, which was made of impossible things, is still wrapped around his neck. But the magic of the chain was tied to the order of the world. Now that the world is in chaos, the magic is weakening. Fenrir feels the vibration of the earthquake, and he gathers every ounce of his titanic strength. He plants his massive paws on the shattering floor of the cave. He arches his back, and he pulls. The sound of the chain snapping is like the crack of a whip that can be heard in all 9 realms. It is a sound of pure liberation. The wolf shakes his massive head, and the fragments of the chain fall away like cobwebs. He steps out of the cave and lets out a howl that freezes the blood of every living thing. It is a howl of triumph and hunger. He begins to run towards Asgard, and fire shoots from his eyes and his nostrils. He devours everything in his path. The mountains and the trees and the birds are swallowed whole by the beast. In the depths of the ocean, the water begins to boil. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, has been sleeping in the cold darkness, but the shaking of the earth disturbs his slumber. He uncoils his massive body, which has been wrapped around the world. He is miles thick and thousands of miles long. When he moves, the displacement of the water creates tsunamis that are higher than the tallest mountains. The black, freezing water of the ocean surges inland, crushing the coastlines and flooding the plains. The serpent rises from the deep like a living island. His scales are hard as iron and covered in ancient barnacles and sea slime. He lifts his terrible head above the waves and spews poison into the sky. The poison is a thick, green mist that mixes with the clouds and rains down as acid. It kills the fish in the sea and the birds in the air. The serpent looks toward the land, and he sees the lightning of Thor in the distance. He knows his ancient enemy is waiting. He begins to slither toward the shore, dragging the ocean with him. The sound of his scales scraping against the seabed is like the grinding of tectonic plates. The water rushes over the land, drowning the valleys and turning the mountain peaks into islands. The world is being washed clean by the poison sea. In the cave beneath the earth, Loki, the trickster god, feels the bonds loosen. The earthquake shatters the rocks to which he was bound. The venomous snake that has been dripping poison on his face falls from its perch and slithers away in fear. Loki stands up. His body is scarred from the poison, and his limbs are stiff from centuries of binding, but his mind is sharp and cold. He looks at his wife Sigyn, who has faithfully held the bowl for so long. He does not offer her a word of thanks. He has moved beyond gratitude and beyond love. He is now a being of pure vengeance. He casts off the remnants of his chains and steps out into the ruined world. He does not look like the handsome, laughing god he once was. He looks like a shadow. His eyes are dark pools of malice. He walks toward the place where the ship of the dead is waiting. He gathers his children and his allies. He calls to the giants and the monsters. He is the general of the army of chaos. He walks with a limp, but his stride is purposeful. He knows exactly where he is going. He is going to burn Asgard to the ground. The prophecy speaks of a ship called Naglfar. This is the most horrifying vessel in all of mythology. It is not made of wood or iron. It is made entirely from the fingernails and toenails of dead men. For thousands of years, the Norse people trimmed the nails of their dead so that they would not contribute to the building of this ship. But in the chaos of the Fimbulwinter, the rituals were forgotten. The dead were left unburied, and their nails grew long. The ship was finished. It sits high on a dark beach, waiting for the flood. When the Midgard serpent rises and the ocean floods the land, the ship Naglfar floats free of its moorings. It is a massive white ghost ship, creaking and groaning as it rides the black waves. Loki steps onto the deck and takes the helm. He is the captain of the army of the dead. The hull of the ship is filled with giants and monsters and the dishonored dead who did not go to Valhalla. They stand on the deck in silence, holding their rusty weapons. They are sailing toward the plain of Vigrid, the field of the final battle. The wind fills the sails, which are made of dead skin. The ship moves unnaturally fast, cutting through the waves without a sound. It is the flagship of the apocalypse. To the south, the sky rips open. The realm of Muspelheim is the world of primordial fire. It has been separated from the rest of the world by a magical barrier, but now the barrier is gone. The fire giants, led by their king Surtr, begin their march. Surtr is a figure of terrifying power. He is made of living flame and molten rock. In his hand he holds a sword that shines brighter than the sun. It is a sword of pure destruction. When he swings it, the air itself catches fire. The fire giants march across the Bifrost Bridge, the rainbow bridge that connects the earth to Asgard. The bridge was built to hold the weight of the gods, but it was not built for the heat of the fire giants. As they cross the bridge, the rainbow begins to crack and melt. The colors bleed into one another and fade into gray. The bridge shatters behind them, cutting off the retreat. The armies of chaos are converging from all sides. The wolf from the east, the serpent from the sea, the dead from the north, and the fire from the south. The heat from the south meets the cold from the north and creates a swirling vortex of steam and storm. The sky is torn apart by lightning. The thunder is constant. The world is being squeezed between fire and ice, just as it was in the beginning. The noise of their approach is deafening. It is a cacophony of howling and roaring and cracking and splashing. But amidst this chaos, there is a moment of singular clarity. Heimdall, the watchman of the gods, stands on the walls of Asgard. He has eyes that can see for 100 leagues and ears that can hear the wool growing on a sheep. He sees the enemy coming. He lifts the Gjallarhorn to his lips. This is the horn that has been hidden beneath the world tree for eons. It is the horn of the end times. He takes a deep breath and he blows. The sound is pure and clear and incredibly loud. It cuts through the roar of the ocean and the rumble of the earthquake. It wakes the gods in their beds and the warriors in Valhalla. It is the sound of destiny calling. It is a mournful sound, but also a defiant one. It says that the end is here, and the gods will meet it, standing up. The sound vibrates in the stones of Asgard. It vibrates in the bones of the gods. It is the signal that the waiting is over. The final act has begun. I want you to imagine the vibration of that horn blast. It resonates in your chest like a deep organ note. It is a sound that vibrates through the atoms of the universe. It signals the end of waiting. The long winter is over. The time of paralysis is finished. Now is the time of action. Even though the situation is hopeless, the sound of the horn brings a strange kind of peace. It is the peace of certainty. There are no more questions. There are no more choices to be made. The path is set. The board is arranged. The pieces are moving. As you lie in the dark, listening to the story, let yourself feel the release of that tension. The breaking of the bonds is scary, but it is also a release. The wolf is free. The serpent is free. The god is free. The world is no longer holding its breath. It is exhaling. Let yourself exhale with it. Let the tension in your own body snap like the chain Gleipnir. Let the walls you have built around your own stress crumble like the cliffs. You do not have to hold anything together tonight. The story is carrying the weight for you. The ship is sailing. The horn is blowing. And you are just watching from the shore, safe in the distance. The monsters are scary, but they are far away. They are trapped in the story. You are safe in your bed. The chaos is outside, but the peace is inside. Let the sound of the horn fade into the distance. Let the roar of the ocean turn into a gentle lullaby. The world is breaking, but you are whole. Sleep now, and let the old world fall apart, so the new one can be made. The sound of the Gjallar horn is not just a noise that travels through the air. It is a physical force that shakes the foundations of the 9 worlds. When Heimdall, the white god, stands upon the high walls of Asgard and puts the golden rim of that ancient horn to his lips, he is not merely signaling a battle, he is waking up the universe. I want you to imagine the sheer lung capacity required to blow a horn that can be heard in the deepest roots of the underworld and the highest peaks of the sky. Heimdall draws in the breath of the dying world. He fills his chest with the cold wind of the Fimbulwinter. He gathers all the silence and the tension that has been building for 3 long years, and he forces it through the spiraling chamber of the horn. The sound that emerges is low at first, like the grinding of tectonic plates deep beneath the ocean. It vibrates in the stones of the wall and in the armor of the gods. It resonates in the marrow of their bones. It rises in pitch and volume until it becomes a piercing clarity that cuts through the darkness like a blade of pure light. It is a sound that carries the weight of destiny. It tells every living being that the waiting is over. The time for speeches and plans is finished. The time for the final reckoning has arrived. In the great hall of Valhalla, the sound of the horn acts like a key turning in a massive lock. For centuries, the chosen warriors of Odin the Einherjar have been feasting and fighting, waiting for this exact moment. They have slept on benches covered in shields and drunk from cups made of skulls, but they have never truly rested. One ear has always been open, waiting for the call. Now that the call has come, there is no panic. There is no confusion. There is only a grim and silent determination. I want you to visualize the scale of this mobilization. Valhalla is not a building that makes sense to the human mind. It has 540 doors. Each door is so wide that 800 warriors can march through it shoulder to shoulder without touching the door frames. The sound of those doors swinging open all at once is like the sound of a mountain cracking apart. The hinges groan under the weight of the massive oak and iron timbers. The cold air of the Fimbulwinter rushes into the warm hall, extinguishing the torches and chilling the mead in the cups. But the warriors do not feel the cold. They are burning with the fire of battle. They rise from their benches in unison. The sound of millions of feet hitting the stone floor at the same time is like the beat of a massive war drum. They reach for their weapons, which have been kept sharp and ready for eons. They strap on their helmets, which are shaped like boars and wolves and eagles. They fasten their mail coats, which ripple like liquid silver over their bodies. The metal is cold and heavy, but it feels familiar and comforting. These are men who died in battle. They know the smell of blood and the taste of fear. They have already faced the end of their own worlds, and now they are ready to face the end of the cosmos. They march out through the 540 doors in perfect formation. They are a river of steel flowing out of the hall. They do not speak. There is no need for words. They know their duty. They know that they are marching to a battle that they are destined to lose, but they march anyway, because that is what heroes do. They fight not for victory, but for the honor of the fight itself. At the head of this vast army rides Odin the Allfather. He is mounted on Sleipnir, the 8-legged stallion. The horse is a monster of muscle and speed. His coat is as gray as a storm cloud, and his mane flows like smoke. He stamps his 8 hooves on the paving stones, striking sparks that fly up into the dark sky. Odin wears a helmet of pure gold that shines like a star in the twilight. In his hand he holds Gungnir the spear that never misses its mark. On his shoulders sit his 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin. They whisper the secrets of the enemy into his ears. They tell him of the wolf breaking his chains and the serpent rising from the sea. Odin's face is grim and set. His single eye burns with a blue fire that sees through all illusions. He knows exactly what is going to happen. He has read the runes, and he has drunk from the well of wisdom. He knows that he will not survive this day. He knows that the wolf is waiting for him. But he does not hesitate. He spurs his horse forward and leads the host of the gods out of the golden gates of Asgard. Behind him ride the other gods. Thor stands in his chariot, drawn by his two massive goats, Tangrisnir and Tangnjoster. The goats are restless and angry. They chew on their bits and toss their horned heads. Thor grips the handle of Mjolnir, his hammer. His knuckles are white with the force of his grip. He wears his belt of strength, which doubles his power. He wears his iron gloves, which allow him to handle the cosmic weapon. His red beard bristles with electricity. Sparks jump from his hair to his shoulders. He looks toward the horizon where the Midgard serpent is thrashing in the water. He can feel the presence of his old enemy calling to him. Beside him is Tyr, the one-handed god of war. He holds his sword in his left hand. His right arm ends in a stump wrapped in leather. It is the price he paid to bind the wolf. He does not regret it. He knows that sacrifice is the currency of the gods. Freyr rides a golden boar that glows in the dark. He looks sad because he gave away his magical sword for the love of the giantess Surtr. Now he rides to battle armed only with the antler of a stag. He knows he is doomed, but he rides with his head held high. The army of the gods reaches the Bifrost Bridge. This is the rainbow bridge that connects the realm of the gods to the world of men. It is made of fire and water and air, woven together by ancient magic. It shimmers with colors that the human eye cannot even perceive. It sings a high, clear note when the wind blows through it. But today, it is not singing. It is groaning. The bridge was designed to hold the light weight of the gods, but it was not designed to hold an army of millions. As the Einherjar march onto the bridge, the structure begins to tremble. The colors flicker and fade. The red fire in the bridge begins to burn too hot, and the blue water begins to freeze. The sound of the boots on the bridge is like thunder rolling across the sky. The gods know that this is a one-way journey. As the last of the warriors steps onto the bridge, the structure begins to crack. Great shards of crystallized light fall away into the abyss below. The bridge shatters behind them, cutting off their retreat. There is no going back to Asgard. The Golden Age is over. The only way is forward into the darkness. They arrive at the field of Vigrid. The prophecy says that this field is 100 leagues wide and 100 leagues long. It is a vast plain of gray dust and black rock. It is a place where nothing grows and nothing lives. It was created at the dawn of time specifically for this battle. It is the stage for the final act of the drama. The gods array their forces on the northern edge of the field. They stand in silent ranks, their shields overlapping to form a wall of gold and iron. Across the vast distance, they can see the enemy gathering. The horizon is dark with the shapes of giants. To the east, the army of the dead from the ship Naglfar is spilling onto the shore. They are pale and silent, moving with the jerky, unnatural gait of corpses. To the south, the sky is burning. The fire giants of Muspelheim are marching toward the field. Their leader Surtr waves his flaming sword and sets the very air on fire. The heat from the south meets the cold from the north and creates a massive storm over the center of the battlefield. Lightning flashes and thunder rolls, mixing with the sound of the horns and the howling of the wolves. The sheer scale of the gathering is impossible to comprehend. It is not just two armies meeting, it is two halves of the universe colliding. On one side is order and light and creation. On the other side is chaos and darkness and destruction. The tension in the air is thick enough to taste. It tastes like ozone and sulfur and old blood. The ground shakes rhythmically as the giants march closer. Each footstep of a frost giant creates a tremor that travels for miles. The frost giants are massive beings made of living ice and stone. Their breath freezes the moisture in the air, creating clouds of fog that hide their numbers. They carry clubs made of entire tree trunks and shields made of glacier ice. They roar challenges at the gods, their voices sounding like avalanches crashing down a mountain. The fire giants are even more terrifying. Their bodies are made of magma and obsidian. When they walk, they leave trails of burning lava on the ground. The heat radiating from their army is so intense that the warriors on the front line of the gods have to raise their shields to protect their faces. In the center of the enemy line stands the great wolf Fenrir. He is even bigger than the gods remembered. His fur is matted with the earth of his prison. His eyes are yellow lamps that burn with madness and hunger. He opens his mouth and lets out a steam of hot breath that smells of rotting meat. Beside him coils the Midgard serpent. He has dragged himself out of the ocean and onto the land. His scales are dry and rasping as they scrape against the rocks. He lifts his head high above the battlefield, swaying back and forth like a cobra. Venom drips from his fangs and sizzles on the rocks. The poison creates a green mist that drifts toward the army of the gods, killing any grass or insect that it touches. The two monsters look at the gods with ancient hatred. They are the children of Loki, and they have come to claim their inheritance. Loki himself stands at the helm of the ghost ship. He is laughing. It is a cold, hollow laugh that carries across the battlefield. He points his sword at Heimdall, his old enemy. The lines are drawn. The families are divided. The final tragedy is set in motion. Odin rides out to the front of his line. He does not make a speech. He does not promise victory. He simply raises his spear Gungnir and points it at the wolf. It is a silent command. It is the acceptance of fate. The Einherjar clash their spears against their shields, creating a deafening metallic roar. It is the sound of defiance. They know they are going to die, but they are going to make the enemy pay for every inch of ground. The horn of Heimdall blows one last time. A long, mournful note that hangs in the air for a heartbeat before being drowned out by the roar of the charge. The two armies rush toward each other like two tidal waves meeting in the middle of the ocean. The sound of the impact is the loudest sound ever heard in the history of the world. It is the sound of the universe breaking. It is the sound of steel cutting flesh and giants crushing stone. It is the sound of the end. I want you to feel the heaviness of this moment. It is the weight of all history, pressing down on one single point in time. All the loves and the hates and the promises and the betrayals have led to this field. The waiting is finally over. The tension that has held the world together is snapping. As you lie in your bed, imagine the relief of that release. It is like a dam breaking. It is like a storm finally breaking after days of humidity. The chaos is unleashed, but there is a strange order to it. Everyone knows their place. Everyone knows their partner in the dance of death. Odin knows he must fight the wolf. Thor knows he must fight the serpent. Frey knows he must fight the fire giant. It is a choreographed destruction, a destined collision. Let the magnitude of the event wash over you. You are safe, here observing from a great distance. The noise of the battle is just a distant rumble, like thunder on the horizon. The fire of Surtr is just a warm glow in the distance, like a sunset. You are witnessing the end of an age, but you are also witnessing the clearing of the board. The old pieces are being swept away to make room for the new. Sleep now in the knowledge that even in destruction, there is purpose. The world is turning one last time before the great silence. The battlefield of Vigrid is a churning sea of violence and noise, but within the chaos, there are pockets of intense personal focus. The great battle is not just a shapeless brawl. It is a collection of destined duels that have been written in the stars since the dawn of time. The first and most heartbreaking of these duels takes place in the center of the field where the Allfather meets the monster. Odin rides Sleipnir straight toward the gaping maw of Fenrir. The wolf does not run to meet him. He simply waits. He opens his jaws so wide that his lower jaw rests on the dusty ground and his upper jaw scrapes the darkened clouds of the sky. It is a cavern of teeth and red flesh. It is the entrance to oblivion. Odin knows that he cannot win this fight. He knows that his spear Gungnir, despite all its magic, cannot pierce the hide of the beast that is destined to consume him. But he rides forward anyway. He is the god of wisdom, and he knows that a king must die for his people. He knows that his death is the key that unlocks the next phase of the future. I want you to imagine the moment of contact. There is no clash of weapons. There is no heroic struggle. There is only the silence of the swallow. Odin rides into the mouth of the wolf, and the jaws snap shut. The light of the golden helmet is extinguished. The wisdom of the ages is swallowed by the hunger of the void. The father of the gods is gone. It happens so quickly that for a moment the battlefield seems to freeze. The gods feel the loss of their leader like a physical blow to the heart. But the death of Odin is not the end of the fight. It is the trigger for the vengeance. Odin's son Vidar has been preparing for this moment for his entire life. He is the silent god. He rarely speaks, but he listens and he remembers. He wears a heavy leather boot on his right foot. This is not an ordinary boot. For thousands of years, the shoemakers of the Norse world have been throwing away the scraps of leather from the toes and heels of the shoes they make. These scraps have been magically collected and fused together to make Vidar's boot. It is the thickest and strongest leather in the universe. It carries the weight of millions of footsteps. Vidar steps forward to face the wolf. Fenrir is gloating over his meal. His eyes are burning with triumph, but he does not see the silent god approaching. Vidar steps right into the wolf's mouth. He plants his heavy leather boot on the wolf's lower jaw. The wolf tries to bite down, but the leather holds. It is stronger than iron. It is stronger than stone. It is made of the collective labor of humanity. Vidar reaches up with his bare hands and grabs the wolf's upper jaw. He is the god of strength, second only to Thor. He pulls. The muscles in his back bunch and strain. The veins in his neck stand out like cords. The wolf whines in confusion and then in pain. Vidar pulls harder. With a sound like a wet branch breaking, he tears the wolf's jaws apart. He rips the beast in two from the mouth down to the tail. The monster that swallowed the king of the gods is destroyed by the silent sun. It is a brutal and simple act of justice. The wolf falls dead, and the silence of Vidar remains unbroken. He steps back from the carcass and looks at the sky. He has fulfilled his destiny. He has avenged his father. On the eastern edge of the field, a different battle is raging. Thor, the thunder god, has found his ancient enemy, Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent. The air around them is thick with green poison gas. Thor swings Mjolnir with all his might. The hammer strikes the serpent's head with the force of a falling star. The sound of the impact shatters the eardrums of the giants standing nearby. The serpent recoils, hissing in pain. He strikes back with fangs the size of spears. Thor dodges and weaves, moving with surprising speed for such a massive man. He is fighting not just for his life, but for the world. He knows that if the serpent survives, it will poison the land and the sea forever. Thor summons the lightning. Bolts of blue-white energy arc from the sky and strike the serpent's scales. The smell of burning ozone and scorched flesh fills the air. The serpent thrashes, destroying entire hillsides with his tail. The battle is a storm of noise and light. The god and the monster are evenly matched in strength, but Thor has the advantage of skill. Thor winds up for the final blow. He channels every ounce of his divine power into the hammer. He leaps into the air and brings Mjolnir down directly on the crown of the serpent's skull. The bone cracks. The light goes out of the serpent's yellow eyes. The massive body goes limp and crashes to the ground, shaking the earth one last time. The Midgard serpent is dead. Thor stands over his enemy chest, heaving. He has won. He turns to walk away to help his brothers. He takes one step. He takes two steps. But the serpent has left a parting gift. The air around the carcass is thick with the venom expelled in its dying breath. Thor inhales the green mist. He coughs. He stumbles. He takes a third step. His legs feel heavy as lead. He takes a fourth step. His vision blurs. The poison is burning his veins, turning his divine blood to acid. He takes a fifth step. He drops his hammer. He takes a sixth step. He falls to his knees. He takes a seventh step. He tries to crawl. He takes an eighth step. He collapses on his face. He takes a ninth step into the darkness of death. The protector of mankind dies alone in the dust, killed by the breath of the monster he slew. The lightning in the sky fades, and the thunder falls silent. The champion is gone. To the south, Freyr, the god of summer and fertility, faces Surtr, the fire giant. This is the most tragic of all the duels. Freyr is the god of life, fighting the demon of destruction. But Freyr is unarmed. He gave away his magical sword, which could fight on its own, to his servant Skirnir, so that he could win the hand of the giantess Gerdr. It was a choice of love over war. Now the bill has come due. Freyr holds the antler of a stag in his hand. It is a sharp and hard bone, but it is not a sword. Surtr wields a blade of fire that melts stone. Freyr fights with the courage of a lion. He dodges the sweeping arcs of fire. He stabs at the giant's eyes with his antler. He draws blood, but he cannot parry the flaming sword. Surtr brings his weapon down and cleaves the god of summer in two. Freyr falls, and with him falls the hope of the harvest. The green growing things of the world wither as their master dies. It is the victory of the scorching sun over the gentle rain. It is the triumph of the desert over the garden. Freyr dies without regret. He knows that love was worth the price. Near the ruins of the Rainbow Bridge, Heimdall and Loki find each other. They have hated each other for a long time. Heimdall is the watchman, always vigilant, always true. Loki is the trickster, always shifting, always lying. They are opposites in every way. Heimdall wields a sword of white steel. Loki fights with two curved daggers that drip with venom. They circle each other warily. Loki taunts Heimdall about his failure to save Asgard. Heimdall says nothing. He strikes with the precision of a machine. Loki dodges and weaves, turning into mist and shadow. They trade blows for hours. They are evenly matched in speed and cunning. Finally, they lunge at the same time. Heimdall's sword pierces Loki's heart. Loki's dagger slashes Heimdall's throat. They fall together, locked in a death embrace. The guardian and the thief die in the mud. Their blood mixes in a pool that reflects the burning sky. The rivalry is ended, not with a winner, but with silence. The eyes of Heimdall stare blindly at the stars he can no longer see. The lips of Loki are frozen in a final sneer. The battlefield is now a graveyard of gods. The great heroes are dead. The monsters are dead or dying. The noise of the battle begins to fade. There are no more shouts of defiance. There are no more blasts of horns. There is only the crackling of fire and the moaning of the wind. The Einherjar have fought to the last man. They lie in heaps of iron and bone. The giants are broken rocks scattered across the plain. The prophecy has been fulfilled in every detail. The gods did not save the world. They did not save themselves. They played their parts in the tragedy until the curtain fell. But there is one actor left on the stage who has not finished his work. Surtr the fire giant stands amidst the carnage. He looks around at the ruin of the world. He sees the dead gods and the dead earth. He sees the ice melting and the forests dying. He decides to finish what he started. He raises his flaming sword high above his head. He begins to chant a spell of unmaking. He calls upon the primordial fire that existed before the world was born. He calls upon the heat of Muspelheim to consume the rest of creation. I want you to imagine the heat of that moment. It is not a comforting warmth. It is a purifying, incinerating heat. The air begins to shimmer. The water in the rivers boils away into steam. The rocks begin to glow red, and then white, and then they melt into liquid lava. Surtr flings fire in every direction. The flames catch the branches of the world tree. Yggdrasil, which has stood for eternity, begins to burn. The ash wood turns to charcoal. The leaves turn to smoke. The fire climbs higher and higher until it reaches the stars. The 9 realms are caught in the conflagration. Asgard burns its golden halls, turning to molten slag. Midgard burns its forests and cities, turning to ash. Niflheim burns its ice, turning to steam. The entire cosmos becomes a single roaring furnace. The boundaries between the worlds dissolve. There is no more north or south or up or down. There is only fire. This is the moment of total dissolution. It is terrifying, but it is also strangely beautiful. It is the ultimate cleansing. All the lies and the betrayals and the pain of the old world are being burned away. The rot at the root of the tree is cauterized. The poison of the serpent is neutralized by the heat. The corruption of the hearts of men is turned to dust. As you lie in the dark listening to this, let yourself feel the heat of that fire, not as a threat, but as a comfort. It is burning away your own worries. It is burning away your own regrets. Imagine all the things that burden you being cast into the fire of Surtr. Watch them curl up like dry paper and disappear into smoke. The world is being wiped clean. The slate is being cleared. The noise is gone. The struggle is gone. There is nothing left but the pure, elemental energy of the fire. The fire burns for a long time, but eventually even the fire must die. There is nothing left to consume. The flames flicker and fade. The roar turns to a whisper. The heat dissipates into the void. darkness returns, but it is a different kind of darkness now. It is not the darkness of the Fimbulwinter, which was filled with fear and monsters. It is the darkness of the womb. It is the darkness of potential. The smoke clears and reveals a world that is silent and empty. The gods are gone. The monsters are gone. The history of the world has been erased. It is a blank page waiting for a new story to be written. This is the peace of the end. It is the stillness of the deep ocean after a storm. It is the silence of a house after the guests have left. Let yourself sink into that silence. Let the quiet wrap around you like a soft blanket. The drama is over. The actors have gone home. You are alone in the quiet dark, and it is perfect. Sleep now in the ashes of the old world. Rest in the stillness of the void. The end is just another way of saying that the burden is put down. The battle is over, but the end has only just begun. The silence on the field of Vigrid is heavy and thick, like a physical blanket pressing down on the dead. The gods lie broken among the stones, and the monsters lie twisted in the dust. The noise of the screaming and the clashing of steel has faded into a ringing emptiness that hurts the ears. But there is one figure still standing tall amidst the ruin. It is Surtr, the king of the fire giants. He stands alone on the edge of the world, holding his massive sword, which is not made of metal but of pure concentrated starfire. The blade pulses with a blinding white light that casts long, terrifying shadows across the corpses of the fallen. Surtr looks out at the broken world, and he sees that his work is not finished. The prophecy demands a complete cleansing. It demands that the slate be wiped perfectly clean so that nothing of the old rot remains. He raises his sword high above his head, and he begins to chant a song of unmaking. It is a low, guttural sound that resonates with the molten core of the earth. It is the song of the primordial fire that burned before the gods were born and will burn long after they are forgotten. I want you to visualize the moment the fire is unleashed. It does not spread like a normal fire moving from branch to branch. It erupts. It explodes from the tip of the sword like a solar flare. The air itself catches fire. The oxygen in the atmosphere ignites, turning the sky into a roaring sheet of plasma. The clouds boil away in an instant, leaving the atmosphere naked and burning. The fire rushes out in a shockwave of heat that moves faster than sound. It rolls across the plains of Vigrid, turning the rocks into liquid lava, and the bodies of the dead into instant ash. There is no time to burn. Things simply cease to exist. The iron weapons of the Einherjar melt into puddles of slag that run into the cracks of the earth. The gold armbands of the kings vaporize into yellow gas. The history of the human race, which was written in bone and stone and metal, is erased in the blink of an eye. The fire is hungry. It is not satisfied with the surface. It digs deep. It burns the roots of the mountains. It melts the bedrock. It turns the solid earth into a churning sea of molten glass. The flames reach the base of Yggdrasil, the world tree. This is the tree that has held the 9 worlds in its branches for eternity. It is the strongest living thing in existence. Its bark is like iron plate, and its wood is denser than diamond. But against the fire of Surtr, it is as fragile as a dried flower. The fire catches the lower branches first. The leaves, which were green and silver, curl up and turn black. The sap inside the tree begins to boil. The pressure builds up inside the massive trunk until the wood explodes with a sound that cracks the universe. Great splinters of burning ash wood the size of cities fly through the air like meteors. The fire climbs higher and higher, racing up the trunk faster than a lightning bolt. It reaches the realm of Alfheim, the home of the Light Elves. The beautiful crystal towers, and the gardens of light catch fire. The delicate magic of the elves shatters like glass in a furnace. The realm turns into a falling star and crashes down into the abyss. The fire reaches Jotunheim, the land of the giants. The iron forests melt. The stone castles of the frost giants turn to lava. The ancient ice that has frozen the mountains for millions of years turns instantly into scalding steam. The steam expands with violent force, blowing the mountains apart from the inside. And then the fire reaches Asgard. The golden realm of the gods sits at the top of the tree. It was built to last forever. The walls were made of blocks of stone so heavy that no giant could move them. The gates were made of magic metal that could not be broken. But the fire does not care about walls or gates. It flows over the defenses like water. It pours into the streets of the city of the gods. The golden roof of Valhalla melts. The liquid gold runs down the gutters like rain. The great hall where the warriors feasted for centuries collapses in on itself. The throne of Odin Hlidskjalf, which allowed him to see all the worlds, burns. The wood of the throne turns to charcoal and then to white ash. The memories of the gods are burning. Every song that was ever sung in the hall, every oath that was ever sworn, every story of bravery and love, they are all being consumed by the heat. The library of the universe is on fire, and there is no one left to put it out. The smoke from Asgard rises up and chokes the stars. The constellations are blotted out by the soot of the divine realm. Deep below the earth, the fire reaches the roots in Niflheim. This is the world of absolute cold. The mist and the ice meet the fire, and the reaction is catastrophic. The thermal shock shatters the foundations of reality. The ice screams as it dies. The vapor pressure creates massive explosions that tear the roots of the tree out of the void. The dragon Nidhogg, who was gnawing at the roots, tries to flee, but there is nowhere to go. The fire catches his wings. The creature of darkness is consumed by the light. The spring of Hvergelmir boils dry. The source of all rivers is extinguished. The connection between the worlds is severed. The branches fall. The trunk crumbles. The great ash tree, Yggdrasil, which supported the cosmos, collapses into a heap of burning embers. The structure of the universe is gone. There is no up or down. There is no north or south. There is only a swirling vortex of fire and smoke and debris. The 9 worlds are mashed together in a crucible of destruction. They are being melted down to their base elements. But the fire is only the first half of the end. The prophecy says that after the burning comes the sinking. The earth has been turned to a cinder. It is a blackened ruin floating in space. The structural integrity of the planet is gone. It can no longer support its own weight. The heat has melted the polar ice caps which had reformed during the Fimbulwinter. It has melted the glaciers of the north. It has boiled the moisture out of the rocks. The atmosphere is thick with steam. And now the water begins to rise. The oceans which were pushed back by the heat now rush in to fill the void. The water is dark and churning and filled with ash. It rises over the ruined coastlines. It swallows the blackened stumps of the forests. It pours into the valleys where the humans used to live. It covers the highest peaks of the mountains which have been leveled by the fire. The steam hisses and shrieks as the cold water hits the hot rock. The earth groans as it sinks beneath the waves. It is a slow, majestic surrender. The land gives up its fight against the sea. I want you to feel the heaviness of this sinking. It is the feeling of a stone dropping into a deep well. Down and down and down, The continents slide under the surface. The islands disappear. The last burning peaks of the volcanoes are snuffed out by the rising tide. The world becomes a sphere of water. There is no land left anywhere. There is no sun to reflect on the surface of the water, because the sun was eaten by the wolf. There is no moon to pull the tides, because the moon was eaten by the wolf. There is only the dark water moving in the dark void. The fire of Surtr is finally extinguished. The rage of the battle is silenced by the weight of the ocean. The steam slowly clears, revealing a sky that is empty and black. The stars have fallen. The light is gone. There is only the sound of water lapping against water. It is a lonely sound, but it is also a peaceful one. It is the sound of the womb. It is the sound of the beginning, before there was a beginning. The universe has returned to Ginnungagap, the yawning void. This is the state of potential that existed before Odin and his brothers created the world. It is a place of absolute stillness. There is no time here. A second and a billion years are exactly the same thing. There is no space here. A mile and an inch are exactly the same thing. There is no urgency. The deadlines and the schedules and the appointments of the human world have been washed away. The worries and the anxieties and the regrets have been drowned. You are floating in this vast, dark ocean. Imagine yourself drifting in that water. You are weightless. You are supported completely by the deep, cool sea. The water is soothing against your skin. It washes away the heat of the fire. It washes away the dust of the battle. It washes away the pain of existence. You are dissolving into the void. You are becoming part of the silence. The darkness is not scary. It is comforting. It is like a heavy velvet curtain that has been pulled shut to block out the noise of the street. It is a protection. Inside the darkness, there is peace. The gods are dead and they cannot judge you. The monsters are dead and they cannot hurt you. The heroes are dead and they cannot shame you. You are free from all expectations. You do not have to be strong. You do not have to be brave. You do not have to be successful. You just have to be. You just have to float. The water takes care of everything. It holds you up. It rocks you gently. It whispers to you in a language that is older than words. It tells you that it is okay to let go. It tells you that it is okay to rest. The struggle is over. The fight is finished. The long winter is done. The fire is out. The smoke has cleared. There is nothing left to do but sleep. Deep in the water, the remnants of the old world are settling into the silt. The wreckage of the ship Naglfar, the bones of the wolf Fenrir, the scales of the Midgard serpent. They are all drifting down into the dark. They are being buried by the mud. They are becoming fossils. They are becoming the past. The water does not judge them. The water does not hate them. It just accepts them. It covers them. It transforms them. The iron swords rust and turn back into earth. The gold melts and turns back into veins of ore. The flesh decays and turns back into nutrients. The destruction was not an act of cruelty, it was an act of recycling. The universe is a closed system. Nothing is ever truly lost. It just changes form. The energy of the fire is now the warmth in the water. The rage of the battle is now the movement of the currents. The sorrow of the loss is now the salt in the sea. Everything has been processed. Everything has been integrated. The ledger is balanced. This state of emptiness is essential. You cannot build a new house until you have torn down the old one. You cannot write a new story until you have erased the blackboard. The Vikings understood this. They did not fear the end, because they knew it was necessary. They knew that the world had grown old and heavy. It was burdened by too much history. It was tangled in too many knots. The fire was the knife that cut the knots. The water was the sponge that wiped the slate clean. It is a mercy. It is a gift. Think about your own life. Think about the things that burden you, the mistakes you have made, the things you have lost, the worries about the future. Imagine casting them all into the fire of Surtr. Watch them burn. Watch them turn to ash. Watch the ash sink into the dark ocean. They are gone. They are washed away. You are clean. You are new. You are floating in the void, and you are free. The silence stretches on for an eternity. There is no one to measure it. There is no clock to tick. There is no sun to rise. There is just the dark and the water. The stillness is profound. It enters your bones and slows your heart rate. Thump. Swish. Thump. Swish. It matches the rhythm of the tides. You are breathing with the universe. Inhale the silence. Exhale the noise. Inhale the peace. Exhale the stress. The heavy black water is a cradle. It is rocking you to sleep. You are a child of the cosmos, and you have returned home. The lights are out. The house is quiet. The parents are asleep. You are safe in your bed. The nightmares of the Fimbulwinter are over. The terrifying face of the wolf is gone. The poison of the serpent is gone. There is only the cool, gentle touch of the water. And deep in that water, something is happening. It is very subtle. It is invisible to the eye. But the water is not dead. It is alive with potential. The ashes of the world are mixing with the sea. The elements are finding each other. Carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen. They are dancing in the dark. They are forming new bonds. They are creating new possibilities. The fire of Surtr destroyed the old forms, but it liberated the energy. That energy is now vibrating in the water. It is a hum that you can feel rather than hear. It is the song of creation starting over. It is the seed waiting in the winter earth. It is the baby waiting in the womb. It is the dream waiting in the sleep. The destruction was the labor pain of the new world. The darkness is the gestation. Something beautiful is coming. Something fresh and green and golden. But it is not here yet. Now is the time for resting. Now is the time for healing. The earth needs to sleep just as you need to sleep. It needs to recover from the trauma of the fire. It needs to soak in the cool water. Let it sleep. Let yourself sleep. Be patient with the dark. Trust the process. The dawn will come, but it will come in its own time. For now, just float. Just drift. Just be. The story of the old world is finished. The book is closed. The final period has been placed. The silence is the space between the books. And it is a beautiful space. A holy space. A space of perfect rest. The silence of the void stretches on for an eternity. Time has no meaning in the dark water. 1,000 years pass like a single heartbeat. The ocean rolls and swells under a starless sky. It is a peace so profound that it feels like it will last forever. But deep in the memory of the water there is a spark. It is the memory of light. It is the memory of life. Slowly, imperceptibly, the water begins to change. The heavy blackness begins to soften into a deep indigo. The surface of the ocean becomes smoother. The chaos of the destruction has settled completely. The water is no longer a cauldron of death, but a cradle of life. And then, deep beneath the waves, something begins to move. It is not a monster. It is the earth itself. The land which sank beneath the waves in shame and defeat is ready to rise again. It has been washed clean. It has been purified by the fire and the flood. The scars of the mining and the wars have been smoothed over. The toxins have been neutralized. The bones of the dead have become part of the bedrock. The earth is fresh and innocent and new. Imagine the sound of the earth rising. It is a low rumble, not violent like the earthquake, but steady and strong like a deep breath being taken. The water begins to bulge. The surface breaks with a soft rushing sound. A peak of dark, wet rock pushes up into the air. It is gleaming with water. It is fresh and new. More peaks appear. A mountain range rises, dripping from the sea. The valleys drain. The plains emerge. It is a new continent born from the womb of the ocean. The land is not gray and scarred like the old world. It is rich and dark. The soil is infused with the ashes of the gods. It is potent with magic and life. The son which was eaten by the wolf has a daughter. The prophecy says that before the sun died, she gave birth to a daughter more beautiful than herself. This new sun rises now in the east. It is not the pale yellow sun of the Fimbulwinter. It is a rich golden sun, warm and gentle. It climbs the sky and casts its first light on the new earth. The light is soft and forgiving. It touches the wet rocks and makes them shine like diamonds. It warms the soil and wakes the sleeping seeds. The light hits the wet rock and steam rises. The steam forms white, fluffy clouds that drift lazily across a blue sky. The air is sweet and clean. It does not smell of smoke or blood or fear. It smells of rain and whetstone and potential. And then the green begins. It does not take centuries for the plants to return. The earth is so eager to live that the grass springs up in minutes. It is a vibrant emerald green. It covers the mountains and the valleys like a soft velvet carpet. The trees shoot up from the soil. They are not twisted and gnarled like the old trees of the iron wood. They are straight and tall, with silver bark and golden leaves. Flowers bloom instantly. Fields of blue and red and yellow burst open, turning the world into a garden. The air fills with the scent of blossoms. It is an explosion of life. The silence of the void is broken by the sound of the wind in the leaves. It is a happy sound, a whispering of secrets and promises. The rivers begin to flow. They run clear and cold from the mountains, laughing as they jump over the stones. They are not poisoned by venom. They are pure enough to drink. Then come the birds. The eagle flies over the mountain waterfall. His feathers are gold and brown. He cries out in joy. He is hunting for fish. The fish are leaping in the streams. They are silver flashes in the sunlight. The water is teeming with life. The animals return to the land. Deer and elk and bears appear in the forests. They are not afraid. There is no hunger in this new world. The fields produce crops without being sown. The wheat grows tall and heavy with grain without a farmer to tend it. The fruit trees are heavy with apples and pears. The vines are heavy with grapes. The earth gives its bounty freely. There is no need to fight for resources. There is enough for everyone. The curse of the Sword Age is broken. The competition is over. The abundance is absolute. The wolf lies down with the lamb not because of a miracle, but because the wolf is not hungry. The balance of nature is restored, not as a struggle, but as a harmony. In the middle of this green paradise, a group of figures appears. They are walking through the tall grass. They look around with eyes wide with wonder. They are the survivors. The gods are not all dead. Some have returned from the darkness. Vidar, the silent god who killed the wolf, is there. He walks with a light step, his heavy boot gone. He has laid down his vengeance. Vali the Avenger is there, his face no longer grim, but peaceful. They are joined by Modi and Magni, the sons of Thor. They carry their father's hammer Mjolnir between them. The hammer is no longer a weapon of war. It is a symbol of protection. It does not spark with anger. It glows with a steady, warm light. It remembers the lightning, but it chooses the peace. And then, coming from the direction of the underworld, two figures approach. It is Baldr, the beautiful, and his brother Hodr. The death that started the tragedy has been undone. The brothers are reconciled. There is no more blindness and no more treachery. They embrace in the field of Ida, the place where Asgard once stood. They sit down in the grass and they talk. They do not talk of war or vengeance. They talk of the old days, but without sadness. They remember the old gods Odin and Thor and Tyr, not with grief but with honor. They tell stories of the ancient battles as if they were dreams. The trauma of the past has been washed away. They are young again. They are fresh. They look down in the grass and they find something glinting in the sunlight. It is the golden game pieces, the chessmen of the gods. They were lost when the table was overturned in the final battle. But here they are, lying in the grass perfectly preserved. The gold is bright and untarnished. The gods pick them up. They set up the board. They begin to play. But it is not a game of strategy and war anymore. It is a game of creation. They move the pieces and they shape the world. They are building a new reality based on peace and playfulness. They laugh. The sound of their laughter rings across the new world like bells. It heals the last wounds of the earth. It scares away the last shadows. The game goes on forever, and there are no losers, only players. But the gods are not the only survivors. Deep in the forest of Hodmemis Holt, there is a secret grove. The fire of Surtr did not reach this place. The darkness did not penetrate it. The morning dew protected it like a shield. Two humans hid there during the destruction. Their names are Lif and Lifthrasir, life and lover of life. They slept through the apocalypse, fed by the morning dew. Now they wake up. They rub the sleep from their eyes. They step out of the hollow of the tree where they were hiding. The sun hits their faces and they smile. They hold hands and look out at the new world. They see the green mountains and the blue sky. They see the gods playing in the meadow. They are the Adam and Eve of the future. But they are not innocent like the first humans. They carry the memory of the past. They know what happens when men lose their way. They know the danger of greed and violence. They are wise. They look at each other, and they see the future in each other's eyes. They will populate the earth with a new race of humans. A race that lives in harmony with the land. A race that honors the gods but does not depend on them. A race that remembers the fire and chooses the peace. The world is whole again. The circle is complete. The destruction was necessary to clear away the rot. The fire burned away the hatred. The water washed away the grief. What is left is pure gold. The new world is better than the old one. It is cleaner. It is kinder. It is built on a foundation of memory, but it is not bound by the chains of fate. The dragon is dead. The wolf is dead. The serpent is dead. The shadow has been lifted. The sun shines down with a mother's love. The wind blows with a gentle touch. The river flows with a happy song. The prophecy of Ragnarok is not a story of death, it is a story of birth. It tells us that the darkness is just a tunnel to the light. It tells us that the winter is just a prelude to the spring. It tells us that no matter how bad things get, the green earth will rise again. I want you to feel the hope of this new morning. It is the feeling of waking up after a long fever and finding that you are well. It is the feeling of the first day of spring after a hard winter. It is the feeling of a fresh start. The slate is clean. You can write whatever you want on it. The mistakes of the past do not define the future. The pain of yesterday does not poison today. Every ending is just a disguise for a new beginning. The Norse people knew this. They did not fear the end because they knew it was the door to the beginning. They faced the darkness with courage because they knew the light would return. And it has returned. The world is green and gold and blue. It is waiting for you. It is inviting you to step out of the hollow tree and walk in the sun. As you lie in your bed, think about the golden game pieces in the grass. Think about the game that is waiting for you. You are a player in the new world. You have survived your own battles. You have weathered your own winters. You have faced your own monsters. And you are still here. You are a survivor, like Lif and Lifthrasr. You have the wisdom of the past and the potential of the future. The morning is coming for you too. The sun will rise on your world just as it rose on the new earth. The shadows will flee. The cold will break. You are safe in the hollow of the tree. You are nourished by the dew of hope. The gods are watching over you not as masters but as friends. They are playing their game in the grass and they are smiling. The pieces are moving in your favor. The board is set for joy. The story of Ragnarok is a dark story, but it has a bright ending. It tells us that nothing is ever truly lost. It changes form. It goes into the dark, but it returns. The love you give returns. The hope you hold returns. The light you seek returns. The universe is a circle of endless renewal. You are part of that circle. You are eternal. The night is just a pause in the song. The silence is just a breath between the notes. Let the peace of the new world settle into your bones. Let the green of the grass fill your vision. Let the warmth of the new sun touch your skin. You are home. The journey is over. The battle is won. The peace is here. The fear is gone. There is only the gentle turning of the earth and the soft breathing of the sky. The old storyteller in the wooden hall finishes his tale. The fire has burned down to glowing embers. The snow outside has stopped falling. The wind has died down. The hall is quiet. The listeners are asleep, wrapped in their furs, dreaming of the golden game pieces. You are among them. You are safe and warm and loved. The world turns gently in the dark, carrying you toward the dawn. Rest now in the certainty of the return. Rest in the beauty of the renewal. Rest in the silence of the green earth. The cycle continues, and you are part of it, forever and ever. Good night.